Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim Travels. I'm your host Terry, coming to you from what the heck is this town? It's it's a Loves at exit 232 on the Ohio Turnpike. It's like the last exit before you get into Pennsylvania, or it's the first exit when you get out of Pennsylvania, I guess too. I don't know what town this is. I honestly don't. It's pretty close to Youngstown though. But there's a new Loves here. It's quite lovely. And it's, what time is it? It's 7 o'clock, 1900 for those of you who like the 24-hour clock. And there's plenty of parking here still. I used to stop at this exit because there is a Pilot across the road that I guess had cheap fuel. But I only stopped because I really needed cheap fuel. Because the Pilot has like 14 spots for trucks. So today is Wednesday, September 4th. Celebrating some birthdays today. 1956, Blackie Lawless was born. Singer for Wasp. That's not his real name. I think his last name is Duren, D-U-R-E-N, but I can't remember his first name. Maybe, I don't know. I can't remember. Also born on this day in 1968, Mike Piazza, former catcher for the Mets. I think also and the Dodgers, right? He's a Hall of Famer. And, of course, the Queen Bee herself, Beyonce, born on this day. She's 43 today. She looks great for 43. Here's a cool thing about Beyonce that I found. I don't know how I find this stuff out. But anyway, I got my sources. But, and by the way, if you're going to Beyonce's birthday party tonight, just know you're probably going to have to sign an NDA. Just saying. Widener University, which is in Pennsylvania and Delaware. I'm not exactly sure why both. I know their law school is in Wilmington. But Widener University is offering a course this year on Beyonce. That's right. For college credit, you could study Beyonce. Now, it seems a little weird. It seems like one of those basket weaving classes, although basket weaving is a very useful skill, especially if you need a basket. But they're examining her as a cultural icon, right? And I don't think it's any big news that people like Beyonce and like Taylor Swift and other musicians, other musical acts, the Stones certainly, they are their own economic universe, right? They're just creating, a lot. And, like they're just industries in and of themselves. So I think that's why they're doing it. But I think, studying people as a cultural phenomenon, how they affect, pop culture, fashion, attitudes about things, country music, right? Like Beyonce's just proven that, she's powerful. And so it's just an interesting study of somebody like that. Now, I don't know what the course is going to look like. Hell, I don't know what the textbook would be, but I'm sure there's plenty of material for that. So, yeah, I just got a load I'm taking to, man, this is one of the places I hate going, but maybe I shouldn't say. It's in Aberdeen, Maryland, but I've gone there, and it's the place with the pond. If you've been there, you know what I mean, where you got to drive like all the way around this complex, park, walk around this, water retention pond, take your stuff in, go back and park. It's a pain in the butt. And the first time I went there, it was horrible. But it's where I gotta go, and that load delivers tomorrow evening. I don't think I'm gonna get another load before I end up going home on Friday at some point. So I'll be home for the weekend. Looking forward to watching a little college football. So I had this conversation with, well, let me fill you in on the kind of the backstory, right? So I had a trailer that had a couple of lights that needed to be repaired. It wasn't an emergency, but my company was like, oh, take this to the Loves in Oak Creek, Wisconsin, the one that's like right south of Milwaukee. So I go in there, and of course at Loves, you can't be in your truck while they're working on it. So I go into the shop waiting area, and I'm sitting in there, and then there's another driver in there, and I got to admit, I wasn't really in a great mood because these lights could have been, it was not making the trailer not pass a DOT inspection. It was just something that I noted, and we keep the trailers we have for quite a while. We do drop and hooks, but oftentimes I'll have the same trailer on my back for like a week, 10 days, maybe 2 weeks. But anyway, I was like, hey, there's a few of the lamps in this light burn out, and this is on a utility trailer. I'm like, I don't know at what point you want to get this light swapped out. And then there was a light kind of hanging like by a wire. It was loose in the top. But I didn't want to get it fixed that day, in part because I was actually dropping that trailer. I was like, why don't you just send somebody to fix it at the place it's getting dropped? So no, you got to go, because I hadn't gone because it wasn't like on the schedule, like I couldn't get in at other places. No, you got to go. So I was a little bit miffed that I had to do that, because I was already going to be later than I wanted to be for doing a drop and hook in Abbotsford, Wisconsin, at Abbeyland. So anyway, I'm sitting in there, and they got me in pretty quick. No complaints about the Loves guys. But this driver's in there, this other truck driver, and he just started saying stuff that was like kind of odd, but whatever. And then he was talking about how there's no shops at the Loves down in Oklahoma, at some of the Loves, because there are at some others, right? And especially out in the Oklahoma Panhandle. Well, I certainly have run through the Oklahoma Panhandle more than once, and there are a few Loves out there like Texoma and Royce. I think it's called Royce City, but they don't have shops. And he was complaining about that to these guys outside of Milwaukee, like they have something to do with it. And so I was like, part of the reason they don't have workers at those places is because they don't pay enough. And there's nobody that has those skills in that area that's willing to work for what Loves, pays. And then, I said, the conversation kind of transitioned, and I don't even know how exactly, but it just happens, right? And he says to the guys, the Loves dudes behind the counter, he's like, you know where Oklahoma is, right? And then in my mind, I was like, dude, they didn't just get off a plane from like the Sudan. Most adults are going to know kind of where Oklahoma is in relation to, at least to Wisconsin. But I was like, I felt like people ask that question if that's surprising to them. Like if you said, yeah, I was up in Idaho, and they're like, I got no idea where that is. and they're like a grown-ass adult. So, I said, I didn't really say anything to that, but then he was talking about, career as a mechanic and stuff. And I said, it's not a career, it's just a job, right? I said, companies don't want to pay people. People don't want to do the work, right? It's just that simple. It's just a job. And he's like, well, being a truck driver is not just a job. I said, yeah, it is. It's like anything else, right? It's just a job. He's like, well, to me, it's more than that. I'm like, okay, it can be more than that, but it's still just a job. He goes, I've been doing this 20 years. How long you been doing it? And I said, 5. And he's like, oh, well, you're just a rook. And I said, okay, whatever, but it's still just a job. Well, I'm 3rd generation. And, if you say that to people, you might get some different reaction. I said, really? I said, well, I was in the military for over 20 years, and to me, it was just a job. I got a pension, but it's just a job, right? It's what I did. And he's like, well, some of these old timers, some of these country boys, they're not going to take kindly to you saying stuff like that. And I said, well, what are they going to do? What are they going to do? Hit me? I said, the problem with trucking is that there's a bunch of people out here, I don't think the majority. I think a lot of us we're very circumspect about this, right? It's a job. And people people like me come into the industry for some period of time, but we're not lifers, if you want to say that. And we do it and then we leave. I've met a lot of people that come from different walks of life, and for the time that they're doing trucking, it makes sense for them. But when you start thinking that this is like some special thing, you're kind of becoming a victim of the people you work for. Because if trucking companies can convince you that this is some higher calling, like you're special or something, then they can keep you around by just feeding you crumbs, because you're thinking, oh, I'm important, I'm keeping the American economy moving. But newsflash, if 100,000 over-the-road truckers quit today, the U.S. economy is not going to grind to a halt, because trucks aren't like trains. There's a lot of people that want to come into the industry and do it for a short period of time, and then they move on, right? Like a lot of people get into trucking and they're like, oh, it's not for me. And they leave. Maybe they leave after 2 months, maybe 2 years, maybe they leave after 10 years. Some people come back, but a lot of people don't. But that's because it's just a job. And so if you're the guy who thinks that you're somehow more important than other drivers, like calling people rooks, that's just a tell that you got nothing else going on. Like you got no other place to go. And while it's true that some truckers could go and do other things, it's also true that they aren't. He pointed out to me he was a 3rd generation trucker. I'm like, so? It just means you did what your dad and your grandfather did, or your grandmother, mom, whatever. But it's still just a job. They had jobs, you have jobs. It's not like there's a birthright. It's not like you're born to a trucker and you automatically get a CDL when they hand over your birth certificate. It's a choice you make. And the reason that all this is kind of like interesting but also irksome to me is because there are so many people that have this inflated sense of self. Like people that have YouTube channels, okay? They have an inflated sense of themselves. And I'm like, it's just a job, okay? It's no more. It's kind of funny. I had a friend, I worked in his recruiting office in Littleton, Colorado many, many years ago. And the Navy used to have these bumper stickers that would say, it's not just a job, it's an adventure. But my friend, who was a recruiter, he was more circumspect than the people that made up that bumper sticker. And he cut a bumper sticker up and he put it on a little portfolio. And after he doctored it up, it said, Navy, it's just a job. And he wasn't selling anything other than, hey, if you want to work on F-14s or you want to be on a submarine, we're the people you got to talk to. But it's just a job. And whenever you start thinking that this is more than just a job, then I really think you're deluding yourself. And I get people have stuff they want to hang on to, right? They want to feel important. But be important for a good reason. Don't be important because your employer says you're awesome. Like when my driver manager sends out messages, her messages to her fleet are, she starts out, to my awesome drivers. We're not awesome. We're just doing a job, right? And somebody saying it to us doesn't make it so. And as we start this month of trucker appreciation nonsense, just keep that in mind, that none of us are special, or all of us are special. But it doesn't matter if you've been doing this for 40 years or 50 years. Like, I got nothing. Sorry, I got nothing. I see somebody, oh, I've been doing this for 50 years. Really? Go do something else. Go expand your horizons. But if you're doing this, do a good job. Do your best. Be safe. Be courteous. And then when you're done, you're done. And it was just a job. You did something. You got paid for it. In some cases, not very much. But you showed up for work on time. You did your job. And I've said that about being in the military. I showed up for 20 plus years and did my job. Nothing more, nothing less. Yeah, I got some medals. I got a lot of accolades. But it's still just a job. And the other funny thing about this conversation was he was like, well, what if I was bad-mouthing the military? Because I guess he thought I was bad-mouthing truckers, when I was really just saying we're not special. But I said, actually, I wouldn't care. If somebody wants to badmouth veterans or people that are in the military and say you're not special, I would be like, yeah, sure, that's cool. That's true. It's also an opinion, but it's true. They're not special. They're just doing a job. So anyway, I hope you enjoy your job. If you don't, there's always another job out there. And so anyway, take care. Have fun. Have a cupcake or some ice cream or something. Celebrate the birthdays of today, and especially Queen Bee's. And if you're going to her birthday party, have fun. And I'll talk to you soon. Bye.